Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first video of the Quantitative LAB. So the first thing that we are going to do in this lab is to input the data in SPSS. Right now I am in Excel because I personally like to start in Excel. I personally like to have my data set in Excel. But that's my preference. If you prefer, you can do everything on SPSS. But if you are like me, like you feel more comfortable with with Excel, maybe you can start like I am doing. So here I have some data. This is just an example of this is the example that we will use in this lab. But this is data from a course where we have 20 different students, and we have some interesting information. For example, their grade, their final grade of that course, how many this study means how many hours per week they studied for this course. So for example, we can see that people studied the people who studied the most was 20 hours. The people who studied the less was 2 hours. And then we have another variable that says group, and we have 1 and 0. So in this case, I know that 1 means that that person studied in a group, and 0 means that that person didn't study in a group, that that person studied alone. So as you can see here, everything is very coded. There is not a lot of information in my data set. That is something that we can talk a little bit in SPSS, but I have it like very lean. I only wrote group, but actually group means if that person studied or not. And 1 equals yes, that that person studied in a group, and 0 equals no, that that person didn't study in a group. Then we have work, and work means 0 if the person doesn't work apart from studying, or 1 if the person does work. So 1 equals yes. And then we have gender, and we have 1 and 0. So here the thing is that if the person is a male, it is 1, or if the person is female, it's 0. As I already mentioned in the lectures, it's up to you how you code it. You can code 1 for female or 0 for male, or you can say 1 for female and 0 for male, or anything else. It's up to you. The same for work. You can do it the other way around. Like you can say like 1 doesn't work and 0 is work. But in the end is that you need to make it clear. I think we talk a little bit about this in the lecture, but just making sure that you understand it. So now I will move to the window in SPSS. And this is the interface that you find in SPSS when you start. You have two views, the data view and the variable view. I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we input the data. But let's start with data view, because data view is very similar to Excel. As you can see, we have rows, like in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we also have columns. Here, we don't have like in Excel, A, B, C, D, E. Here we have bar, but it means that we need to input a variable. So this is, I think is the best is to start in here. You can also start in here, but I think it's better if we start in data, and then we start inputting the data, and then we move to the variable view. Most of the time, you already have the data set, even if you prepare it or if you get it from somewhere else. And most of the times it is in Excel. So I am going to kind of import the data from Excel and put it in SPSS. I think that because the data set is not that large, what you can do is simply copy paste, but be careful, don't copy the titles, only copy the numbers, right? Like make sure that you don't copy everything, because if you copy that, it's going to be a bit problematic. So just copy the numbers and then paste them in SPSS, and it will appear like this. Then just make sure that everything copied correctly, like make sure that there is not a mistake with these numbers and the others. As you can see, we did it right. I think we got the same numbers and it works out fine. The next step is to kind of give some format to this thing, right? Like it seems a bit chaotic and we don't even have the names, and we have this rule in here that we don't really know what it is. So that's the next step. The next step is now move to variable view because we're going to set the settings that are relevant for our data set. So the first thing that I believe is very important is to write the name of the variables. So the first variable, as you remember from Excel, the first variable is student, and this student is the student ID from 1 to 20. It is just a number that we assign to our students. So it doesn't mean that 1 is better than 2 or anything like that. It is just that this is student 1, student 2, student 3. So let's write that in here. So I will write student, right? My variable is student. Then I have in here type numeric. Most of the time, you should keep type numeric like that, because most of the time we will use numeric data. I think 99.99% of the cases we will use numeric data. So keep it as numeric. The thing is that you can also use like letters or something else, but in what you will be doing for your thesis and in this course, you will be using numeric data. So leave it like numeric. Then we have with and decimals. So with and decimals refer to how much I want to see about the data. Like for example, here I have 1.00. You can change that. For example, for me, it doesn't matter if I have the decimals or not. So maybe I can write 0 like this. What's my 0, 0, and then enter. And then I go back to the data view and I will see that I don't have the decimals. So it's just configuration or kind of like the settings. It's not that it will affect anything else, but it can facilitate my life a little bit. Then I really like this column label from variable view because I can add a little bit more of information. And I think this is kind of a plus from SPSS compared to Excel, because in Excel, I didn't have that. I will have to add like another line in here maybe to explain that this is a student ID or something like that, that I had to add more, but it is kind of complicated. So, but in SPSS, it is very nice because I can include a label in here to add extra information. So the name of my variable is student, but I can clarify in here that this student is the student ID number, right? Student ID number. Then here I have values and missing. Since all the data that I inputted is correctly, that's something that we're going to talk also in the lecture to make sure that we input correct data. We are not going to have a problem in here. We don't have any missing values or any value that doesn't belong to this. Then in column is only the size of the column, right? Like how large this is. Like we can change it if we want it to be small or large or whatever. And a line is the same, just formatting. But measure is very, very important. Measure, as you remember, maybe from the lecture number 5, when we talk about the different types of variables, we need to set the type of variable that the student is. So if you click in here, you have the 3 options. So what kind of variable do you think a student ID number is? I will believe that it is a nominal variable, right? Because it is not ordinal, like it's not a ranking. As I said, 1 doesn't mean that it's better than the second. Or 1, it doesn't mean that it's better or worse than 2. It's only student 1, student 2, but it doesn't show anything better or worse or anything. So I will define student ID as nominal. It's also not a scale because I'm not measuring anything. So it is nominal. I will put in there nominal. Then the second variable. I need to go back because I forgot what's the second variable. Oh, the second variable is grade, very important variable for my analysis. So here I will write grade, the name grade, and then keep it numeric. This I will keep it with the decimals, or I don't have to, but I will write in here grade, and I will write also in parentheses that this is on a scale of 0 to 100. Again, this is something that helps me to add a little bit more of information. I really like the label thing. And I also feel comfortable with right alignment. I don't care, but if you do, you can change a little bit of the things in here, but super important again, I need to set what type of variable is this. Also, I forgot to say, but sometimes SPSS helps you, but you can't rely totally on SPSS. So when you have only, like in this case, we only have 6 variables, I think it's worth doing it manually because SPSS tends to make mistakes. So let's set this variable. For grade, it will be a scale variable, right? Because we are measuring that the grade is a measure and it's a scale because one extra point is actually a measure, right? I think you can go to the videos when I explain the type of variables, and then if this is not clear, you will understand why it is a scale variable. Then we go to the number 3. Number 3 is the hours of study. So I will write again study as the name of the variable, but here in the label, I will clarify that it is hours of studying per week, right? I can even add per week like this. So again, this is very useful. And then the name is only study, but I have extra information, hours of study per week. And then again, what is this? If we are talking that this is time, we say that this is also a scale variable because time is a matter of scale. Then we move to the 4th variable, and then that means that this is group, and group is a dummy variable, dichotomic variable, yes or not. So here I will call this variable group, like this, group. And then here in the label, I will do something very important. I will tell, or I will remind myself that 1 equals that the person studied in a group. I study in group, just to remind myself. Like 1 is that that person studied in a group, and 0 that the person didn't study in the group, right? It's just to remember. And of course, this is a nominal variable because I am not measuring anything. Like 1 is not like more than 0. It's just nominal, yes or not. Okay, again, if you're having trouble with this thing with the variable, go to the lecture number 5 where I explain the variable thing. And then the next one is work, if the person works or not. So I will write work. And then again, label, very useful. I will write that 1 means that the person works, right? 1 equals work. And again, it's a nominal variable. And then after work, I have, I think is gender. So I will write in here gender. And then in the label, again, I will say that 1 equals male. Okay, so 1 is male, 0 is women or something else. So nominal in here. So we are done with inputting the data. As I said, you can even add a little bit more of formatting. Like, for example, maybe I can, for gender also, I can take out the decimals and it will look even better or something like that. But let's keep it like that, okay? Let's keep this, or you can do a little bit more if you want to. You can change the alignment or whatever. But make sure that by the end of your practice, it looks like this, that you have the right names of the variables. That's good, that you understand what's behind this, and that you also have this kind of mini images in here. And if you compare that with what we had in Excel, it's the same thing, but we have a little bit more of information. I think that's a positive point for SPSS. You have this thing, the ruler, mentioning that it is a scale variable, and you also have some explanation in here with the label. Label, it's great from 0 to 100. You don't have that in Excel, so it's not, I think it's a kind of a positive side from SPSS. So this was the video about inputting data, and then we'll start with some analysis.